You know that feeling, right? You just meant to check one quick thing online, maybe the weather, or, see a friend's update. But then somehow one article, it just pulls you in, then another link, maybe on social media, it grabs your eye, and suddenly it's like the real world just fades away. You're deep in the feed, just scrolling. And scrolling.
And scrolling.
Exactly. And it's not just like random stuff. It's this relentless stream, isn't it? Often just bad news, crisis headlines, political fights, scary reports, some disaster happening somewhere.
It's overwhelming.
Totally. And as you're scrolling through all this dark stuff, you feel it, right, in your body.
Oh, absolutely.
Is that like tightening in your chest, shoulders starting to creep up, maybe a knot in your stomach?
Yeah, that tension.
A kind of rising dread, maybe, helplessness, or even this weird, like, anxious fascination that just keeps you stuck there. It really is like getting sucked into some kind of vortex of negativity and trying to pull yourself out. It feels surprisingly hard, like really frustratingly difficult.
Absolutely. And, what you're describing there, that a powerful pull, getting lost in all that upsetting information.
Yeah.
That's not just you.
No, good. Well, not good, but you know what I mean.
Right. It's become incredibly common, almost like an epidemic, really.
Yeah.
Especially these last few years with all the uncertainty, the global challenges.
Yeah.
And it actually has a name that I think perfectly captures that whole experience. Doomscrolling.
Doomscrolling. Wow.
Yeah.
It sounds exactly like it feels like you're literally scrolling your way into, well, doom.
Precisely. It's this phenomenon that's really born from this collision between our ancient biology, how we're wired, and our modern digital technology.
Okay.
And this deep dive today is all about unpacking that completely. Our mission really is to understand exactly what doomscrolling is.
Right.
Why it has such a strange, difficult to break grip on us, to really explore the very real and significant impact it has on both your mental and physical well-being. Because these effects, they're far from trivial.
Okay, yeah, that's crucial.
And most importantly, we want to equip you with practical, actionable, research-backed strategies. Things you could actually start using, like today, to protect yourself, to reclaim your peace of mind and, take back some control over your digital life. We've pulled together insights for you from quite a lot of sources, actually, looking into the latest research in health, psychology, media studies, and also drawing from shared personal experiences.
Okay, let's do it. Let's unpack this. So starting at the beginning, a clear definition, because, we're all online so much these days, right?
Yeah.
Is doom scrolling just another word for spending too much time on your phone? Or is it something specific?
That's a really great distinction to make right off the bat. It's not quite the same thing. While, yes, it happens online, doom scrolling is specifically defined by the kind of content you're consuming.
Okay.
And the way you're consuming it. It's really about spending significant amounts of time, and often compulsively, intentionally seeking out and just fixating on negative or upsetting news online.
So actively looking for the bad stuff.
Or getting hooked on it, yeah. Think about those endless feeds you get on social media or news websites, news aggregators.
Right.
It's much more than just, glancing at a headline as you scroll past. It's that specific moment where you get, instantly hooked by some distressing headline or story. And then you find yourself spending long and frequent periods, as the research puts it, just diving deeper, clicking link after link, reading comment after comment, just consuming more and more of that negative content. It's that magnetic compulsive pull specifically towards the bad news.
And we really saw this term just explode, didn't we? A few years back, it felt like suddenly everyone was talking about doom scrolling.
It absolutely did, yeah.
Yeah.
The term itself gained widespread popularity, particularly during the early phases of the global pandemic.
Right, that makes sense.
Uncertainty was just sky high then, wasn't it? And people were desperate for information, any information, even if it was constantly dire. But it really extends beyond just COVID-19. It tends to thrive during any period of heightened uncertainty or crisis. Political unrest, climate change worries, international conflicts, economic instability.
Basically, whenever things feel out of control.
Exactly. When things feel chaotic, many people seem to gravitate towards needing to know everything bad that's happening. Almost like knowledge is power, even if it's upsetting knowledge.
Yeah, I get that impulse.
And the data.
Yeah.
It clearly reflects this urge. During recent periods of widespread uncertainty, we saw these global statistics showing a staggering 35% increase in people watching news media.
35%, wow.
And a 23% increase in overall social media use worldwide.
Yeah.
That's just a massive amount of extra time and attention being poured into these platforms.
Which creates the perfect storm for doom scrolling.
Precisely. It creates this incredibly fertile ground for the habit to take root and just flourish.
So again, it's really drilling down on the fact that it's not just the amount of time online, but the quality or maybe the lack of quality of the content and that compulsive pattern. Because, let's be fair, social media, the internet, they aren't all bad, are they? They connect people. They can be sources of good, balanced information sometimes, especially when we couldn't connect in person.
That's a really, really important point, and our sources definitely emphasize it. It's crucial to differentiate doom scrolling from just, general online engagement.
Right.
During lockdowns, for instance, like you said, the internet and social media were absolute lifelines for so many. They let people maintain those virtual connections that were just essential for mental well-being.
Right.
And the research doesn't paint this simple picture where all time spent on social media is automatically bad for your mental health. The impact is, well, it's nuanced.
It depends.
It really depends on what you're seeking out online,
Right.
and crucially, how it makes you feel.
Ah, okay. The feeling part.
Yes. If your time online is mostly characterized by feeling envy or constantly comparing yourself or feeling rising anxiety and stress, then yeah, it's probably not serving you well.
Makes sense.
But if it's facilitating genuine connection, helping you find reliable, balanced information, or even providing uplifting or funny content, it can absolutely be beneficial. The negative impact of doom scrolling stems directly from its laser focus on distressing content.
Right.
And that uncontrollable, compulsive drive to just keep consuming it, even when it feels absolutely awful.
That makes perfect sense, yeah. It really is the doom part of doom scrolling that's the problem. Which, leads to the big question. If it makes us feel so terrible, so anxious, so helpless, why on earth do we keep doing it? What is driving us down that rabbit hole?
Right. It seems counterintuitive. And this is where it gets really fascinating because it's this complex interplay. It's our deep-seated human nature colliding with the way modern technology is built.
Okay.
So one fundamental cause is just this inherent human drive we have to seek information, particularly when we're facing uncertainty.
We want to answer.
Exactly. Our brains are basically wired to try and resolve ambiguity. We don't like not knowing. So during times of elevated threat, whether that threat is real or just perceived, there's this powerful, almost instinctive desire to gather as much information as possible.
Trying to figure things out.
And on one hand, this has a healthy adaptive side, right? Knowing about a real danger allows you to take precautions, like understanding health guidelines during a pandemic helps you stay safe.
Sure.
But there's also an unhealthy extreme to it, that constant feeling of being on edge, that pervasive worry that you might miss some absolutely critical piece of information.
FOMO, but for bad news.
Kind of, yeah. Fear of missing out on the threat. Information that could somehow keep you safer, even if, realistically, that information is just piling on more stress.
Right, that illusion of control we sort of touched on earlier. Like, if I just keep scrolling, if I just know all the bad things that could possibly happen, somehow I'll be more prepared, more in control.
Precisely. It offers this false sense of security, doesn't it? The act of gathering information feels productive. It feels like you're taking action.
Yeah.
When in reality, specifically with doom scrolling, you're often just amplifying your own anxiety. You end up feeling less in control as all that negativity just piles higher and higher.
Okay.
And this feeling, this drive, it's profoundly amplified by one of the most powerful forces hardwired into our brains,
Yeah.
the negativity bias.
Our brains have a bias towards bad news. That sounds like the opposite of helpful for happiness.
Well, they're not really biased towards making you happy. They're biased towards keeping you alive.
Survival.
Our brains are fundamentally hardwired for survival. That's their prime directive, you could say. So they're designed to pay disproportionately more attention to potential threats, dangers, and negative information in our environment.
Why is that?
Think back to our ancient ancestors, maybe out on the savannah. Spotting that little rustle in the grass that might signal a predator lurking, that was far, far more critical for survival than noticing a beautiful sunset or a patch of juicy berries.
Right. Miss the berries, you get hungry. Miss the lion, game over.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That threat detection system is incredibly powerful and deeply ingrained. And today, fast forward to now, that same ancient biological mechanism gets triggered.
By what?
By alarming headlines, by graphic images, by upsetting news stories you encounter scrolling on your phone or computer.
So the brain doesn't know the difference.
It perceives these things as potential threats, even though they're mediated through a screen,
Yeah.
thousands of miles away sometimes. And it activates the exact same physiological stress response to that fight or flight system.
What?
So whether it's the immediate threat of being eaten by a lion or watching the latest global crisis unfold minute by minute on your screen, your body and your brain go on high alert. They demand your attention.
So that primal survival instinct, the one designed to keep us safe out in the wild, it's basically being hijacked by our news feeds now.
Pretty much, yeah.
And it's actually working against our peace of mind in this digital age.
It really is. And this challenge, this hijacking, it's often even more pronounced for individuals who already grapple with existing anxiety disorders.
Okay, how so?
Well, people diagnosed with conditions like, say, generalized anxiety disorder or GAD, panic disorder, OCD, PTSD, they often have a heightened need to feel in control of situations.
Right.
And they might already be more prone to dwelling on potential threats or worst-case scenarios.
Right.
So for them, doom scrolling becomes this particularly dangerous kind of trap.
Why more dangerous?
Because their increased drive to seek information, which is fueled by their anxiety, it paradoxically just generates more fear and anxiety. It creates this really vicious cycle.
So the thing they're doing to cope with anxiety actually makes it worse.
Exactly. It becomes what our sources very aptly describe as a maladaptive coping mechanism. You're trying to cope, yes, but the method you're using actively harms you in the long run. It's like trying to put out a fire with gasoline.
Wow. That analogy really hits home. Pouring fuel on the fire instead of water. And I think I read somewhere that younger brains might be even more susceptible to getting caught in this.
Yes, that's another key finding that comes up. The prefrontal cortex, that's the part of the brain responsible for all those higher level executive functions, things like impulse control, decision-making, planning ahead.
The adulting part of the brain.
Kinda, yeah.
Yeah.
And that part is actually still developing throughout adolescence and even into the early 20s.
It's not fully cooked yet.
Right. And because this crucial area for regulating impulses isn't fully mature yet, teens and young adults can find it even harder to exert conscious control. To break that cycle of doom scrolling once the compulsive urge kicks in, their developing brains are, in a sense, just less equipped to resist that powerful pull.
Okay, so we've got our basic human drive for information, the negativity bias, existing anxiety issues, brain development, and then you layer on top of all that the way the technology itself is actually built.
Exactly. That's the final piece of the puzzle, and it's a big one. The platforms themselves, they aren't neutral bystanders in this.
What do you mean?
The very design of social media apps and news algorithms actively contributes to this addictive, compulsive behavior. They are engineered, fundamentally, to maximize your engagement, to keep you on the platform longer.
Right, that's their business model. Eyeballs on screens.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And maximizing engagement often means prioritizing content that is emotionally resonant. And unfortunately, negative, alarming, or outrageous content is often highly effective at grabbing and holding our attention. Remember that negativity bias?
Yeah, it feeds right into it.
Absolutely. So they use things like clickbait headlines crafted specifically to exploit our negativity bias and our curiosity gap. They trigger an emotional response that just makes us have to click. And then you have design features like the endless scrolling feed, that infinite scroll. It removes any natural starting point. There's no end of the page, no final chapter. It makes it incredibly easy to just keep going and going, losing all track of time and purpose.
It just never stops.
That continuous unbounded feed format is highly conducive to compulsive behavior. And when you consider that research indicates well over 50% of Americans now report getting their news primarily via social media platforms.
50%, that's huge.
It is. So these platforms, designed this way, become the significant pathways leading users directly into the heart of doom-scrolling potential. It really is a perfect storm, isn't it? Our ancient survival wiring meets modern algorithmic design, all stirred up by moments of global uncertainty.
Yeah, it's fascinating. And also kind of terrifying when you lay it all out like that, how all these forces just converge on us. So, okay, given all of that, how can someone actually tell? How do you know if you've really fallen into the habit of doom scrolling? What are the clear signs we should be looking for, maybe in ourselves, or perhaps noticing in people we care about?
That's the next logical step, right? Spotting the signs. And our sources provide some really clear indicators. Think of it like a self-assessment checklist. You can just see if any of these resonate with you.
Okay, let's hear them.
All right. One of the most straightforward signs is simply spending long and frequent periods of time reading news stories. Much, much longer than you'd actually need to just get a general update on what's happening.
Hours instead of minutes.
Potentially, yeah. Another key sign is feeling that repeated, almost insistent urge to check the news throughout the day, even when you know it's probably going to be upsetting or just more of the same.
That little nagging feeling.
Exactly. You might also find yourself reading multiple articles about the exact same negative topic, just cycling through different sources, different angles, all covering the same distressing event.
Like you can't get enough, even though it feels bad?
Right. It's like you're searching for something, but you don't know what, and you just keep digging in the same negative hole.
Okay.
A more intense sign is really fixating on negative articles for hours, truly getting stuck in that feed, completely losing track of time, maybe forgetting meals or other tasks.
Zoning out completely?
Yeah. And then there are the signs related to the impact of the habit. A significant one is noticing that you feel on edge or sad most of the day after you've been consuming news.
That lingering bad mood.
That lingering negative mood, exactly. That inability to just shake off the feeling you got from the news. That's a real red flag.
Okay.
You might also start neglecting other responsibilities, things you actually need to do for work or for your family or just basic personal care, because you're repeatedly checking headlines or diving back into that feed instead.
Putting off real life for the screen.
And a very common and really disruptive sign is having difficulty falling asleep, or maybe waking up in the middle of the night and not being able to get back to sleep, especially after reading negative news right before bed.
Ugh, yes. Lying awake with headlines racing through your head.
Your mind is just too agitated, too stressed, too wired from the news input to actually settle down and rest properly.
Yeah, that inability to switch off the news feed inside your own head when you're trying to sleep. That's a very tangible consequence, isn't it? It sounds like these signs really span the gamut, from internal urges and thought patterns to very clear impacts on your daily functioning and your emotional state.
They really do. And these signs, they point directly towards the very real and often significant toll that this constant barrage of negative input takes on our overall mental and physical well-being. This isn't just about feeling a bit down sometimes. The effects are genuinely physiological and psychological.
Okay, let's delve into that then. What does this steady diet of distressing information actually do to our minds and bodies over the long haul?
The impact is substantial and, unfortunately, often quite detrimental. Let's start with mental health. For individuals who already have pre-existing mental health conditions, doomscrolling can act as a powerful amplifier.
Makes things worse.
Significantly worse, yeah. Our sources highlight that it can really deepen or worsen symptoms of conditions like major depressive disorder, MDD, generalized anxiety disorder, GAD, obsessive compulsive disorder, OCD, PTSD, and even panic disorder.
Wow, across the board.
For someone who's already prone to these issues, that constant exposure to perceived threats and negativity, it can feel like, as one source put it, stepping into quicksand.
Quicksand?
Yeah. It just rapidly pulls them down into deeper levels of distress or rumination or panic. It validates and reinforces their existing fears and anxieties, making recovery much harder.
That's a really powerful and frankly scary image. Stepping into quicksand. It really underscores that this isn't just a passive habit. It's actively harmful, especially for people who are already vulnerable.
It absolutely is. And the harm extends directly to our physical bodies, too, through that physiological stress response we talked about earlier.
The fight or flight thing.
Exactly. When you watch or read upsetting news, your body reacts as if it's facing an immediate physical threat. This triggers the release of stress hormones, adrenaline gets you revved up, and crucially, cortisol, the primary stress hormone.
Okay.
Your body basically gears up for fight or flight, and you experience those physical symptoms that are characteristic of being under acute threat.
Yeah.
Your heart rate speeds up, your breathing becomes shallow and rapid, your muscles tense up, maybe your digestive system gets upset.
So even though I'm perfectly safe on my couch, scrolling my phone, my body is getting the signal that there's a tiger in the room.
Essentially, yes. Your nervous system doesn't always make that distinction effectively when the input is emotionally charged threat information.
Right.
And while this whole response is obviously helpful in a genuine emergency, the problem is chronically elevated levels of cortisol. When this system is triggered repeatedly, day after day, due to constant negative news consumption, that has significant negative consequences.
Like what?
Over time, consistently high cortisol levels exhaust the brain and the body. It can impair your immune system function, making you more susceptible to illness. It can disrupt sleep patterns, affect digestion negatively, and contribute to chronic inflammation throughout the body.
Inflammation. I hear about that a lot now.
Yes, and chronic inflammation is now being linked to a really wide range of serious health issues, everything from heart disease and diabetes to autoimmune conditions and even some mental health disorders. So the stress isn't just in your head, it's a full body burden with potential long-term health implications.
Wow. Okay, so it's not just a mental strain, it's a systemic physical reaction. That's sobering. What about the direct impact on the brain itself, beyond just the stress hormones flooding the system?
Yeah, there are several key cognitive functions that seem to be affected quite directly. One big one is a shortening of your attention span.
Makes sense. Everything's so fast online.
Right. The constant novelty, the rapid-fire delivery of headlines, the emotional intensity of distressing news. It basically trains your brain to crave that continuous stimulation, that constant dopamine hit of something new and alarming.
Uh-oh.
And this makes it increasingly difficult to focus on tasks that are less emotionally charged or slower paced. Things like reading a physical book, working deeply on a single project for an extended period, or even just engaging in quiet contemplation or reflection.
Things that actually require sustained focus.
Exactly. Rapid scrolling in particular really reinforces this pattern of quickly flitting from one piece of information to the next, actively eroding your ability to sustain attention over time.
So it's like we're actively training our brains for distraction rather than for focus.
In a way, yes. It's reshaping your attentional habits, often unconsciously. Another significant impact is information overload.
Brain fog.
Kind of, yeah. Distressing, complex, and often overwhelming content takes up a huge amount of space in your working memory. Think of working memory as like your brain's temporary mental desk space, the area where you hold and manipulate information right now to think, plan, and solve problems.
Okay.
When that mental desk is just piled high with anxiety-inducing news headlines, disturbing images, conflicting reports, there's simply less mental bandwidth available for productive thinking, for creative problem solving, or even just for processing everyday tasks effectively.
You run out of space.
You do. And this leads directly to that feeling of mental exhaustion or brain drain that people often report after a long session of doom scrolling. You just feel cognitively depleted, like you can't think straight anymore.
That brain drain feeling is definitely familiar after falling down that rabbit hole sometimes.
Yeah. And it can also subtly, but quite powerfully, warp your perception of reality over time.
How so?
Studies indicate that individuals who consistently consume large amounts of negative news tend to overestimate the frequency and the severity of real-world dangers.
You start to think the world is worse than it is.
Essentially, yes. Your brain starts to feel like the threat depicted constantly in the news isn't some distant event, but something that's, quote, close by, active, and will not cease anytime soon, as one source described it.
Wow.
This constant skewed input can subtly reshape your entire worldview, making you more fearful, more pessimistic, perhaps, than the objective reality might actually warrant.
That's worrying.
Furthermore, that constant exposure to differing, conflicting, or sometimes even deliberately misleading information, which is really common in highly polarized political news or health information debates, for example.
Right, it's everywhere.
It can make it incredibly difficult to distinguish fact from fiction, or to identify reliable sources, or even just to reconcile opposing viewpoints in a rational way.
Yeah.
This can contribute to this pervasive sense of confusion, deep distrust, and what some people call crazy making.
Crazy making.
Yeah, where reality itself starts to feel unstable and just hard to grasp because you're bombarded with so many conflicting signals.
So it's not just making you feel bad emotionally, it's actively distorting your view of the world and making it harder to even think clearly.
Precisely. And all of this just feeds right back into that vicious cycle we touched on earlier. Instead of feeling empowered or informed or in control after consuming all this news, doom scrolling typically leaves you feeling more helpless, more stuck in rumination, just replaying negative thoughts over and over with heightened levels of anxiety. It actually reinforces the very fears that might have initially driven you to seek the information in the first place. It's a self-perpetuating trap.
A trap indeed.
Yeah.
And all this time, all this mental energy being poured to scrolling, it has to be taking away from other parts of life, right? Important things we should be doing for our actual well-being.
It absolutely does. And this is a crucial but often overlooked consequence.
Yeah.
That excessive time spent online, especially when it's dedicated to a habit like doom scrolling, directly displaces healthy activity.
Like what?
Activities that are fundamental for replenishing our mental and physical health. Things like getting outside for fresh air and sunlight, engaging in physical exercise, having meaningful, real conversations with friends and family in person, ideally pursuing hobbies you enjoy, or simply getting adequate, restful sleep.
The basics.
The absolute basics, all of which are vital for stress reduction and building resilience. They get squeezed out by the screen time.
Right.
And this displacement can then exacerbate feelings of disconnection, loneliness, and just being sedentary, which further contributes to both mental and physical health problems.
Yeah.
It's another layer of that cycle.
And does it make phone addiction worse overall?
Our sources do highlight that doomscrolling can absolutely act as a driver of general smartphone and social media dependence itself. The more you engage in this specific compulsive behavior, the more you reinforce those neural pathways associated with constantly checking your device. You're strengthening the habit loop.
So it makes you want to check even more.
It can, yeah. Conversely, some research suggests that intentionally abstaining from social media use on phones, even for short periods, can actually help decrease this general dependence over time.
Yeah. Wow. It really sounds like a deeply entrenched habit with some really wide-ranging negative impacts. It honestly feels a bit daunting to think about breaking free, but you mentioned there are practical strategies.
Yes.
What can we actually do? How do we stop or at least significantly reduce this doom scrolling? Where do we even start?
Yeah, it can feel overwhelming, but the good news is that while it's definitely a powerful habit, it is a habit. And like other habits, it absolutely can be changed with conscious effort and the right strategies.
Okay, hope.
Yes, definitely hope. The absolute first step, the foundation for everything else, is simply acknowledging the habit exists and then being maybe brutally honest with yourself about it.
Catching yourself in the act.
Exactly. Catch yourself doing it. And then in that moment, try to understand why. Why are you scrolling right now? Are you bored? Are you feeling anxious and seeking reassurance that things aren't that bad?
Or maybe looking for guidance on what to do.
Right. Or are you maybe unconsciously seeking to confirm your existing fears or anxieties? Becoming mindful of the root cause driving the behavior in that specific moment is really key.
Why is knowing the why so important?
Because it helps you identify the underlying need that you're trying to meet, perhaps in a maladaptive way, through scrolling.
Okay, so instead of just trying to stop the behavior cold turkey, understand the motivation behind it first.
Exactly. Because once you understand the why, you can start figuring out how to address that root need in healthier, more constructive ways, rather than just constantly battling the symptom, which is the scrolling itself.
Right. Address the cause, not just the effect.
Precisely. So with that awareness in place, the next critical set of strategies really revolves around setting intentional, firm boundaries around your news consumption. This is absolutely essential because, as we discussed, the technology itself is designed with that endless, boundaryless quality.
So how do you even begin to set boundaries when the feed itself is literally infinite? It just keeps going.
You have to create artificial limits where the platforms deliberately provide none. A great place to start is with strict time limits.
Okay.
Decide ahead of time. How much time per day are you willing to allocate specifically for news consumption? And then stick to it religiously. Maybe it's 20 minutes in the morning or 15 minutes total in the evening, but define it clearly.
And how do you enforce that? Willpower alone is tough.
It really is. So use the tools available. Most smartphones have built-in features now to track and limit app usage. Or you can download third-party apps specifically designed for this. Use them to help enforce those limits you set for yourself. This actively fights against that endless quality by giving you a clear, defined endpoint.
Okay, time limits. What else?
Another really powerful technique is what you could call localized behavior. Basically, limiting your news checking to specific times and specific places.
Like rules for where and when.
Exactly. For example, make a hard rule. You never check the news first thing in the morning while you're still in bed. Or maybe not during the last hour before you go to sleep. Designate a specific time window during the day, and perhaps even a specific device or location. Like, I only check news headlines on my computer during my coffee break, not constantly on my phone everywhere I go.
Restricting the opportunity.
The goal is to shift from that compulsive anytime, anywhere checking pattern to consciously choosing to pick up your phone or access news with a specific purpose and a defined time frame.
Right, moving from being reactive to being intentional. Conscious access versus compulsive reaction. That feels like a really fundamental shift.
It really is. It's all about reclaiming your agency over the technology. And a huge part of that agency comes from turning off push notifications.
The little alerts.
Yes, especially from news apps, but maybe even from social media apps if that's where you get most of your news. Those little red badges, the banners that pop up, they create this constant bombarding of alarmist headlines, as one source put it.
They make everything feel urgent.
Exactly. They make everything feel urgent and demand your immediate attention, pulling you back in. By disabling those notifications, you seize back control over when and how you are exposed to potential triggers for doom scrolling. You decide when to check in, not the app or the algorithm interrupting your life.
Turning off notifications. It sounds so simple, but I can immediately see how powerful that could be in just breaking that constant reactive cycle. Okay, so we've got time limits, specific times and places, turning off notifications. What else can we do to manage the actual stream of information itself, assuming we do check in?
Right, because totally avoiding news isn't realistic or even desirable for most people. So the next step is to actively curate your information stream. Don't just be a passive recipient of whatever the algorithm decides to throw at you.
Be more selective.
Yes. Be mindful and critical of your sources. As one source notes, really question the source's intent. Ask yourself, are they primarily trying to inform me accurately and neutrally? Or is their main goal to influence me, to trigger outrage, or simply to drive clicks through sensationalism?
How can you tell?
Look for reputable news organizations that have established track records of journalistic integrity, that strive for fairness, and that make an effort to provide varied perspectives, not just one side of the story. There are actually resources out there, like the Ad Fontes Media Bias Chart is one well-known example.
I've seen that.
Right. It's a model that tries to help you visually see where different news sources might fall on spectrums of bias, left, right, center, and reliability, factual reporting versus analysis versus opinion. Tools like that can be helpful in evaluating the quality and the potential slant of the information you're consuming.
So it's about actively choosing who you listen to, not just passively absorbing what you happen to see.
Exactly. And be ruthless about it. Unfollow or mute sources, people, pages, outlets that consistently trigger anxiety, anger, or despair for you. You don't owe them your attention or your peace of mind.
Right.
And limit the number of sources you consult daily. You probably don't need to read 10 different takes on the exact same negative event. Pick one or two trusted sources for your updates.
Quality over quantity.
Precisely. You might also consider using tools that are specifically designed for more intentional information consumption. Things like RSS Reader's Feedly or InnaReader were mentioned in our sources.
What are those again?
They're basically tools that let you subscribe directly to content from specific websites or topics that you choose. You create your own personalized news digest, pulling only from sources you trust.
Cutting out the middleman algorithm.
Exactly. Or subscribing to email newsletters from trusted journalists or organizations. These often provide a more curated, less chaotic way to get key updates. They reduce the friction and filter out a lot of the noise and sensationalism automatically.
So you're basically creating your own healthier information filter.
Yes, you're taking control of the inputs. And another thing to try is exploring different formats for consuming news. Instead of just endlessly scrolling those visual feeds, maybe try listening to news podcasts.
Like The Daily or Up First or BBC.
Exactly. Those kinds of summary podcasts. Or reading curated news summaries in newsletters. These formats often have a defined end to them, right? The episode finishes, the newsletter ends. That makes it much easier psychologically to stop consuming compared to the infinite scroll, which just encourages you to keep going.
That's a good point. Finite versus infinite.
And for some people, just reading articles is actually less triggering than watching video news, simply because there's less likelihood of encountering disturbing or emotionally charged imagery that can really stick with you.
Less visceral impact.
Right. Also, consider intentionally reducing your consumption of overwhelming national or international news and focusing more of your attention on local or state issues.
Why local?
Because you're generally more likely to feel a sense of agency or see potential for direct impact on issues affecting your immediate community. That can feel much less overwhelming and helpless than trying to grapple with huge global crises where your individual influence feels negligible.
That's a great point. Focusing on where you might actually be able to make a difference can shift you from feeling helpless to feeling maybe a bit more empowered.
Exactly.
Okay, so that's about managing the external flow of information. What about managing our internal reaction when we do encounter upsetting news?
That's another absolutely critical piece of the puzzle. Learning to shift your internal state and focus while you're consuming news or immediately after. A key practice here is cultivating mindfulness about how the news is actually making you feel in real time.
tuning into your body again.
Yes. Pay close attention to those physical sensations we talked about, the tightening chest, the rapid heart rate, the tense shoulders. And notice your emotional responses too, that rising anxiety, the stress, the sadness, the anger.
What do you do when you notice them?
Recognize them as powerful signals. They're messages from your body and mind telling you, this content is harming me right now. It's time to stop, or at least step away for a bit. Treat those physical and emotional signals as your internal stop sign.
My body has my back. I just need to actually listen to it when it waves the red flag.
Precisely. Your body is communicating incredibly important information about your well-being. Listen up. Also, actively work on avoiding catastrophizing.
Jumping to the worst possible conclusion.
Exactly. When a negative headline triggers your mind to immediately leap to the absolute worst-case scenario, which anxious minds are very good at doing, consciously pause. Question that thought. Ask yourself, okay, is that the only possible outcome here? What is a more realistic outcome? What are other possibilities? Challenge that automatic worst-case thinking pattern.
Push back against the doom spiral.
Yes. You can also use a simple technique from cognitive behavioral therapy called thought stopping. When you notice that compulsive urge to check the news hitting you, or when you find yourself already spiraling down into negative news consumption, just pause and mentally visualize as clearly as you can a big red SOP sign.
A mental red light specifically for doom scrolling. I like that. It's concrete.
It's a simple, quick mental interruption. It gives you just enough space to break the thought pattern before it completely takes over and potentially choose a different path, a different action.
Okay.
And alongside managing the negative input, it's vital to intentionally seek out and consume positivity. You have to actively counterbalance the negativity.
How do you do that without just sticking your head in the sand?
It's not about ignoring reality. It's about remembering that reality is complex and multifaceted. It's vital to remember that not all news is bad news, and the world still contains immense beauty, kindness, human connection, and progress alongside all the challenges. So actively look for good news stories. There are websites and apps dedicated to positive news.
Right.
Watch something genuinely funny that makes you laugh out loud. Look at happy photos maybe of loved ones, pets, or beautiful places. Read uplifting articles or books. Engage with positive, hopeful content online. It's about achieving a more balanced information diet. As one quote from our sources put it beautifully, if you look for the good, you will find it. It is there. Integrating positive content can actively counteract the brain's natural negativity bias over time. You can also use simple positive mantras or affirmations to help recenter yourself when you feel overwhelmed, reinforcing thoughts like, I am safe right now, or everything is going to be all right, or I can handle what comes my way. Whatever resonates with you.
So actively building resilience by intentionally seeking out the good and positive and reminding yourself of your own strength.
Yes, you're actively training your brain to see more than just the threats. And remember to focus on what's actually within your control, which is often just the right now. The future is inherently unpredictable, right?
Yeah.
And huge global events are often far beyond your personal influence.
Go.
So when you're feeling overwhelmed by the news, ask yourself this simple question. What will help me feel better in this exact moment? What is one small, positive, or productive thing I can do right here, right now, that I can actually control? This shifts you out of that paralyzing, future-focused anxiety and back into present moment action.
Grounding yourself in the present.
Exactly. And practicing gratitude is another incredibly powerful tool here. Regularly taking just a moment, maybe first thing in the morning or last thing at night, to reflect on what you are genuinely grateful for. It has profound effects.
Even when things feel bad.
Especially then, perhaps. Maybe the gratitude is prompted by the contrast with the difficult news you're seeing. I'm grateful for my safety. Or maybe it's just a general practice. I'm grateful for my friend's support. Research shows this simple practice can significantly improve mood, enhance sleep quality, and even reduce physiological markers of stress and inflammation over time. Gratitude is a really potent counterbalance to the fear and despair that doom scrolling tends to foster.
Gratitude as an antidote to doom.
That's a powerful thought. And a very practical tip you mentioned earlier, maybe the simplest one, was just doing something else entirely.
Exactly. This is perhaps the simplest strategy on paper, but often the most challenging to implement in the moment. When you catch yourself starting to doom scroll or even just feeling that strong urge, immediately pivot. Do a different activity.
Switch gears completely. Yes, it could be another activity online, sure, but ideally it's something completely different. Log off. Put the device down. Physically get up and move to do something else. Go for a walk, stretch, Talk to someone, do a chore, listen to music, anything to break that chain of association and behavior. The quicker you interrupt the pattern, the easier it is to prevent the full downward spiral.
So redirecting that compulsive energy towards something else entirely, preferably something offline. What about taking a more significant break, like stepping away from screens altogether for a while?
That's where embracing screen-free self-care becomes really important, and also taking real-world action based on what you're seeing.
Okay.
So first, intentionally schedule significant periods of time away from all screens, your phone, your computer, your tablet, your TV. Allow your eyes and your mind to truly rest and reset.
What kinds of things help?
Engaging in activities like yoga, meditation, taking a relaxing bath, going for a walk or a run outdoors. Nature is great for this. Journaling your thoughts and feelings, reading a physical book or magazine, engaging in a creative hobby like drawing, painting, playing music, or simply having an unstructured face-to-face conversation with a loved one.
Getting back to basics.
These activities are absolutely crucial for mental health replenishment and for building resilience. They ground you firmly in the present moment and in your physical reality, pulling you out of that abstract, often anxiety-provoking digital world of threats.
And physical activity seems particularly important in that list.
It really is. Moving your body, whether it's a brisk walk, hitting the gym, dancing in your living room, or practicing yoga, is incredibly effective at disrupting the physiological stress response.
How does it work?
It reconnects you with your physical self, gives your mind a much-needed break from rumination and worry, and it triggers the release of those feel-good neurotransmitters like serotonin and endorphins. These actively counteract the effects of stress and anxiety. Physical activity is a really powerful, direct antidote to the sedentary, anxiety-inducing nature of doom scrolling.
Move your body, change your mind.
Pretty much. And then, thinking about taking action. If a particular news story is genuinely upsetting you or making you feel concerned, is there a way to channel that energy productively instead of just scrolling more and feeling worse?
Good question.
Absolutely. This is key. Replace passive consumption with active engagement and action, where possible and appropriate. If a news story sparks concern or even outrage in you, try to channel that energy into some form of real-world contribution instead of just consuming more and more news about the problem.
Like what kind of actions?
Well, could you donate even a small amount to an organization that's working effectively on that issue? Could you volunteer your time or skills locally? Could you contact your local or national political representative to voice your concerns or advocate for a certain policy? Could you even just discuss the issue constructively with a trusted friend or community member to explore potential solutions or perspectives together?
Moving from spectator to participant.
Exactly. Getting involved, even in small ways, with a group or a cause that's working on issues you care about is incredibly empowering. It shifts you from feeling like a helpless observer to feeling like an active participant, which is a powerful antidote to the sense of helplessness that doom scrolling so often creates.
Yeah, I can see that.
And joining supportive communities can also be huge. Things like affinity groups for people who might be facing specific prejudice or injustice related to current events. These groups can foster resilience and solidarity by connecting you with others who understand your experience and are working together towards positive change.
So taking action, finding community, it transforms that anxiety into something more like a sense of purpose or at least connection.
It truly can. And then just more broadly, making sure you dedicate regular time and energy to activities that genuinely bring you joy, satisfaction, and a sense of meaning in your life.
The good stuff.
The really good stuff. This could be positive social activities, spiritual practices if that's meaningful for you, engaging deeply in hobbies you love, practicing mindfulness consistently, or spending quality time with pets. Animals are great stress relievers.
Yes, they are.
Intentionally building these sources of positivity and fulfillment into your life enhances your overall optimism and builds your mental fortitude. It makes you much more resilient overall to the negative impact of external stressors, including difficult news.
Okay. And then there's the most maybe extreme step. We could talk about doing a full digital detox. Is that something people actually do? Does it help?
Yes, a digital detox is definitely a strategy some people employ. It's basically a deliberate period of abstaining from digital devices, particularly smartphones and social media, for a defined duration. Could be just a few hours, a full day, a weekend, maybe even longer.
Sounds hard.
It might initially sound daunting or even impossible in our hyper-connected world, but the research that our sources reviewed suggests it can often be less challenging than people anticipate. Many people actually report feelings of pleasure, relief, and liberation during and after a detox period.
Really? Relief.
Yes. Of course, it's not all easy. Some might experience feelings of alienation or that fear of missing out, FOMO intensely, or just plain boredom, especially at first. And it's important to be mindful that the boredom doesn't just lead you to substitute one screen activity for another, like binge watching TV instead of scrolling if you're not intentional about filling the time differently.
Right. But overall, it sounds like it can be genuinely beneficial.
The studies have demonstrated that even relatively short digital detoxes can be very effective in reducing that dependence on smartphones and social media. They're linked to positive outcomes like improved sleep quality, increased overall life satisfaction, and significantly reduced stress levels. And interestingly, some of these positive effects seem to last for weeks, even after the detox period officially ends.
Wow, lasting effects. So how would someone try it?
Suggestions from the sources include things like implementing personalized detox limits. Maybe you just detox from one specific problematic app, or only during certain hours like evenings and weekends. Aggressively reducing or eliminating alerts beforehand can make it easier. And even fully logging out of your accounts for the duration can help remove that easy access temptation when you instinctively reach for your phone.
Making it harder to slip back.
Exactly. It's really about consciously breaking that ingrained habit loop and giving your brain a genuine chance to rest, reset, and find other ways to engage with the world and with itself.
So a temporary intentional break can actually be a really powerful reset button, a way to reduce that deep-seated dependence and maybe rediscover life beyond the glowing rectangle.
It absolutely can be a transformative experience for some people. Now,
Sure.
while all these strategies we've discussed are highly effective for many, it's also really important to recognize that for some individuals, doom scrolling can be more than just a bad habit they can tweak on their own.
Okay.
It can become deeply intertwined with underlying mental health challenges that are much more difficult to manage without professional help.
So when does it cross that line? When does it move from being a bad habit you need to work on to something that requires seeking professional support?
That's a crucial question. If you've honestly tried implementing these kinds of strategies consistently, and you still find that the habit feels deeply ingrained, totally overwhelming, and just very, very difficult to break on your own, that's one sign.
If your own efforts aren't working.
Right. Or, perhaps more significantly, if doom scrolling is clearly and significantly worsening existing mental health symptoms, like if it's triggering panic attacks regularly or deepening depressive episodes or fueling obsessive thoughts or compulsive behaviors related to the news or making PTSD symptoms much more severe.
If it's actively harming your mental health functioning.
Yes, and you're struggling to regain control despite your best efforts. That's a very clear signal that it might be time to seek additional formal support. Therapy, particularly approaches like cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, is often very effective in addressing these kinds of compulsive behaviors and the underlying thought patterns that drive them.
How can therapy help specifically?
A therapist can help you identify the specific root causes of your doom scrolling, whether it's primarily about seeking reassurance or managing anxiety or confirming fears or something else entirely. And then they can help you develop healthier, more adaptive coping mechanisms and personalized strategies to manage those underlying issues and break the scrolling cycle.
That makes sense. Sometimes you really do need that expert guidance to navigate the deeper psychological roots and finally break free from a complex, harmful cycle.
Absolutely. And reaching out for that help is truly a sign of strength and self-awareness, not weakness.
Okay. So bringing this all together now, looking back at everything we've explored in this deep dive, we've defined the phenomenon, we've understood the powerful biological and technological drivers behind it, we've recognized the signs to look out for, we've acknowledged the really significant toll it takes on our minds and bodies, and we've outlined this comprehensive suite of practical strategies to fight back. What's the core, overarching message you really want listeners to take away from our conversation today?
I think the fundamental message is this. Doom scrolling is, yes, a pervasive and often harmful habit. It's fueled by this potent combination of our ancient survival instincts, the persuasive design of modern technology, and the inherent uncertainties of the world we live in today. It absolutely has tangible negative impacts on both our mental and our physical health, contributing to anxiety, stress, inflammation, impaired thinking, and more.
Well.
But the absolutely crucial part, the empowering part, is that while it's powerful, it is ultimately a habit. And like other habits, with awareness, with intention, and with consistent effort using the right strategies, it can be changed and managed.
So it's not some inevitable consequence of just being online in the 21st century. It's something we actually have agency over.
Exactly. You are not powerless against the scroll. The key takeaways, the core actions for regaining control and protecting your well-being, really boil down to cultivating intentionality in how and why you consume news, setting clear and firm boundaries around your time and access, actively curating the information stream you allow into your awareness, paying close attention to how the news makes you feel physically and emotionally, using that as a vital signal to disengage, and most importantly, actively replacing that passive consumption of negativity with mindful self-care, with real-world action where appropriate, and with conscious engagement with sources of positivity and resilience in your life.
So it's really a fundamental shift, isn't it? From passively just absorbing the world's problems through a screen to actively engaging with your own well-being and finding productive ways to channel your energy and attention.
Precisely. It's about shifting from feeling like a victim of the feed, constantly reacting to it, to becoming the architect of your own information environment and, to a large extent, your own emotional state.
That brings us perfectly to a final, maybe challenging thought for you, the listener, to consider as you navigate your own digital life moving forward. Take a moment, maybe later today, to reflect honestly on the true purpose that news consumption serves in your life right now. Ask yourself, is it genuinely helping me to be informed in a way that feels actionable, relevant, and actually helps me navigate my real lived life? Whoa. Or has it perhaps mutated into something else entirely? Has it become a primary source of chronic stress, a way to just fill empty moments or numb out? A form of anxious entertainment almost, or maybe even a barrier that distracts you from engaging fully with your immediate surroundings, with your loved ones, with your own inner life and well-being.
It's about balance.
Consider the balance you are currently striking between staying connected in a healthy way to the broader world out there and staying genuinely connected to yourself, to your own well-being, and to the reality of your present moment. Where's your personal balance point right now? And does it maybe need some adjusting, something to mull over?